Oh man, really excited for this one. Happy Monday. I was going to say happy Friday, but it's really Monday. So we're double dipping into the project. Hi, everybody. I'm Arms Bumanlag coming to you live from Amherstburg, Ontario. We got just an awesome show tonight. I'm so excited, so blessed to reconnect with an amazing woman. And I'm pretty sure that you remember her. She left an amazing impact in terms of her skill, her tenacity as a reporter, and probably one of the nicest people you will ever meet in your life. So we're going to catch up with my guest in just a few moments here on the project. As always, you can comment. We are live on Facebook, we're live on LinkedIn, and we're live on Twitter as well. So you can comment in the feed. And we've had some pretty cool guests over the last month and a half since we've been doing the show. And Friday, we had a great guest. We had Chris Tolmie, former 89X morning show host, talking about what he's been up to over the last little bit. And that episode is already up on YouTube. You can watch the video, and Spotify has some really interesting comments about what's next for Chris in the world of broadcasting. And then this Friday, the man, the myth, the legend, Mark Jones. This is the guy that would mobilize Windsor when the pandemic hit to get PPE to seniors. He's a good friend of our families, and I can't wait to bring Mark on the show. That's coming up this Friday, live right after 8 o'clock here on Facebook, LinkedIn, and on Twitter. So Mark's a great guy, got lots of stories to talk about, and we'll catch up with Mark and find out what exactly he's been up to over the last little bit. But my guest here on the show tonight, what can I say about her other than she was and is one of my favorite broadcast journalists? She's a multi-media journalist from TV, radio. She did a number of huge charity events here locally in the Windsor-Essex area, and she was always somebody that I thoroughly enjoyed working with. Joining us on the show today, very happy to reconnect with my friend, Miss Christie Bezaire, who is joining us on the program. Christie, how's it going, buddy?
So good. It's so good to see you and in your element, doing your thing again. I love it.
Oh, God bless you. I missed, like we were saying just before we went live, I really missed doing the show. I missed chatting with folks. And once we were able to get off the ground here, so to speak, I thought going through my list of like must-haves on the show. And I'm like, you know what? Last time I talked to Chrissy has been some time, so I'm going to reach out. And God bless you, here you are. So first of all, how the heck are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I can't complain. I'm in a good place right now. I'm home in Windsor. So some people will know this and some people won't. But my husband is an NHL coach. So we live for the hockey season where he's coaching. So for 4 years, that was in Toronto. And now we're in Ottawa. So in the summer, we come back home to Windsor, Essex, because that's the place we love, and we call it God's country. And we have our families here, which, as you know, is just everything, especially when you have little ones. And so, yeah, this is my happy place. Like, I love this time of the year, coming home, seeing old faces, reconnecting with our friends, and just having family close by. It's just everything to us.
It's pretty crazy, eh? How like life changes so much when you have little ones. And I know, I mean, we got lots to talk about, lots to catch up tonight. And I want to talk about the fam, see how they're doing. But I remember at CTV when we were working together, I mean, we can go way back to like the A days, the A new days, which I'd like to talk to you a little bit about. But when you talk about, you know, that shift in your priorities, I mean, when you're a mom, I think that's huge, right? You want to be around your kids.
Definitely. Yeah. When I left Windsor, I sort of left kicking and screaming. DJ had taken a job in Toronto, and I thought, okay, maybe it's time to move on. But I just always knew that it was really special here. And I knew that like the grass isn't always greener. You know, there was people in our market who are really like, hey, Toronto, you got to make Toronto. You got to make Toronto if you want to make it. And like, to a certain degree, I get it, having worked in that market as well, but I just always knew that like our group was really special. We had it really good. I really enjoyed like this community, and then again, like living close to your parents and in the community that you're from, like that's not a thing that a lot of journalists get to enjoy. So I feel like you and I were really lucky in that sense. But yeah, when DJ went up to work, I actually stayed behind and thought, well, I'll just try this for a little bit until I get a job. Like I didn't want to leave CTV at that point. So I was looking for work, but after 1 month of living apart when we had Brock, and Brocky was only a year at that time because I just finished my mat leave, I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like you have to keep your family together, you know? So I did end up going up before I had a job to Toronto, and I did end up within a month actually getting work, which was a huge relief to me because I really just didn't want to go there without working. And then I spent 2 years working at CP24 there until, of course, he got his next job, and then we moved again. And so this time I ended up taking a bit of a different direction and not pursuing the media thing.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk a little bit more about that and your pivots, right, to what you're doing now and some of the cool stuff that's on the horizon too. But I got to tell you a funny story. So I'm on the couch with Liam, my son, and we're cruising through Toronto news, and lo and behold, I see this pop up. This lovely lady pop up, and I'm like, oh my God, Christie's on CP24. This is amazing. And you were doing, I think it was like a spot, some sort of report in the car, I think, at the time. And then I start to catch me more and more on CP24, which you were like totally rocking it.
CP24 was one of the coolest experiences of my life. I don't think I still watch CP24. I'm addicted to it because it is on 24 hours a day. So if something's happening, they're on it. And so let's say like something is breaking, they're not waiting for you to get there. They're telling you go live in the car and talk about what you know on the way there. Like, here's the information we have. The desk is giving you information, or you're making calls and getting information from some of your contacts, and it's terrifying. It's terrifying as a former journalist with a place that like we took so much time and we fact checked and whatever. This is like, it's different. It's not storytelling. This is like live reporting. So talk about what you know, source it, in case some information is wrong, but according to, whatever, fire, this is what we know so far. But you're not even there yet. Like that, to get that concept in my head going there was really tough. And they're live every 30 minutes. So your entire day, you would love it, but your entire day is live. There's no waiting for a show. You're just the show all day long. So it was really fun and it was really exciting. And of course, here we shot, wrote, and edited everything ourselves, right? There you have a shooter, someone else is editing the video. So it just all comes together in this unique way at the end of the day. And well, not at the end of the day, the whole day long. And it's a real team event. And it's cool. It was just so different from what I had done in Windsor. And I felt like I got so much more confident speaking live. And I always enjoyed it. And I always told people that weather always helped me with that because we were unscripted doing weather, as you know, and it was different from news. And you had to let go of like the perfection of things and just talk about what you knew and the weather story of the day. And I found CP24 to be very similar to that. And I did do a little bit of weather there too, which was really fun.
I just think it was totally cool. I mean, from that aspect, just to go through some of the, pictures again, like just to see somebody that we all know and we know from that particular, I guess, background, and to see you be able to kind of do your thing on CP24 was like totally cool to me because as somebody who looked up to you very much. So, I mean, I remember the days where, you were gracious enough to take me underneath your wing back in 2010 when I made the jump over to television. It was like to see somebody like yourself sort of have that skill and bring it to that kind of stage to me was absolutely incredible to see. And it was just neat to see somebody from our region, quote unquote, make it to the big time. Because I think a lot of journalists and a lot of broadcast folks, they don't necessarily have that particular, I guess it's back and forth, right? It's hard to do things live in the element. And I remember when we used to do different things on CTV, and I remember A Channel, you always used to tell me as well, is there a way that we can kind of look at different things, but also line things up from, I guess, a better standpoint and make it a little bit more personal again? That was, to me, the biggest thing that I thought for myself was a big part of why we do broadcasting, right? I mean, you take a look at things and then you're able to kind of illustrate those things as much as you can do. And, you want to make sure you're in the element, but you also want to make sure that you're able to do things and make it make sense to folks, right? And then if you're able to do it in a live setting, like seeing Christie in that live element was absolutely incredible to me, for a couple of different reasons, because you get to see her do her thing and continue to do it live and in the element. I mean, it's nothing to say to be like you're actually in the element itself. Like you would say, okay, well, I'm going to be live here. I'm going to talk to a few people. I'm going to see what's going on, but I don't really know. Like you're not really prefacing sort of like the deep dive for different things. And that's huge to be able to do that back and forth with folks. And I think that's why people can appreciate when you're able to do the elements as well as you can do it. You're able to talk to folks and able to do certain things as well. I think it's huge as well. So, it's kind of neat for you to see those kind of elements as you continue to go on, and for you as well to have that experience. And a lot of folks are commenting in the feed too. Christy saying, "Hey, good to see you both." I mean, for you to come back to Windsor, that must be very fulfilling for you, right?
Yeah.
As the fam.
Oh, we love it. Yeah, we just love it here so much. Like this is just such a great time of year for us. The hockey season can be super intense. It can be sometimes a long stretch of time on my own with the boys and without DJ. Especially this year, it was a shortened season, but it didn't matter. It was like 9-day road trips, 14-day road trips. So there was just like a lot of time on my own and a lot less visitors this year because of COVID. We were totally shut down. So no one was coming, as people shouldn't. And that was the rule, and also there was no games to go to. So I couldn't go to any games either. So it was I know it was tough for everyone. It was very isolating and it was hard, and you knew that it was for the greater good and we were going to get through it. And here we are. And so things are good. And I was actually just happy DJ was working, because I thought, like, Lord help me if we're together all the time, because that's not good either. But no, he was working, and that was great. So he was very busy, and it was a lot of time alone. So it's actually just been so refreshing to be home, to be double vaccinated. Both of us are, to feel like we're seeing our friends again and our family. We're having like lots of barbecues. We're just trying to like soak it all up, and really, like, tonight's actually a quiet night. I was so glad that the date that you said was like a Monday, and like I knew nothing much would be going on because it was a Monday. So to do this was awesome, because it was a long winter. I felt like, I don't know if you felt the same.
Yeah, I think it's a whole situation, right, to get people going and to be in those particular situations where you're able to, I guess, I don't know, be part of that main look at and see how you can kind of prioritize different things and prioritize your family as well. And I mean, you talk about your family doing well. I mean, they look absolutely fantastic. Here's the fam jam here, right? I mean, everyone's doing pretty good.
Oh, they're so good. Yeah. So Brock just turned 5. We just had his birthday in June, and that was really fun because we were home for that. So we could have everyone here in my backyard, and it was really great. And then Mickey will turn 1 year at the end of August. So August 24th is his 1-year birthday. And as people from Windsor will remember, Mickey Reno, we named him after Mickey Reno, which was really special and near and dear to our hearts. Actually, Brock was originally supposed to be named Mickey, but some people know this and some people don't. But when Brock was born, he was born really sick, and we were not sure if Brock was going to make it. And the thought of naming Brock Mickey in that moment was not on the table anymore. So we're still to this day really good friends with the Reno family, and we'd asked their permission. And we thought, okay, if we have a second child, whether it's a boy or a girl, we're going to name the baby Mickey. And I ended up having a boy. And it was really funny because a short while later, I got together with the Reynolds so they could meet the baby. And I was talking to Jane, and I said, Jane, so if you know Jane Reynolds, she had like a vintage store on Wyandotte. Like, she's like super cool. She has like all this like cool vintage stuff in her basement. And I just, for some reason, like the name Mickey sounded like this like cool vintagey name to me. And so I thought, that might be like the link, like why she named Mickey, her Mickey. So I asked her, I said, why did you name him that, Jane? And she said, I don't know. I just thought it sounded like the name of an athlete. And like, I just thought that was kind of like really funny. I was like, oh, okay. It had nothing to do with vintage. She wanted an athlete, and like, she sure got one, right? So Mickey Runnell, former captain of the Spitfires. And so, yeah, so now I have my own little Mickey, and we'll see whether or not he turns into an athlete. I have no idea, but I know he's a bruiser. That's for sure. He's afraid of nothing. He has had 2 black eyes. And don't judge my parenting, because I swear my other son never had a scratch on him and hasn't to this day. But this child is just, he is different. People say that you end up with kids that are different, and I never really realized that until Mickey came along. And then he's blown my mind, this one.
We've got a lot of comments coming in. Christie Bezaire is my guest on the show tonight. Love to have her on the program tonight. We're going to continue to chat with you. You can comment on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter as well. Comments in the feed. We'll bring those questions up to Christie. This one's coming in from Donna on Facebook. She goes, Christie, I know you kind of touched base on this, but do you really miss Windsor? You ever miss Windsor as much as you're not here some of the time?
Yeah, I mean, we just have so many good friends here and family, and we still own a home here. So we're still invested into this community. And some people might not know, but we're also co-business owners here. It's not just our business, but All Level CrossFit is our gym as well. So we are very connected still to the community. And I actually will come back during the season every once in a while if DJ's gone for like a long stretch of time. So I miss Windsor when I'm not in Windsor, but I always come back, so I don't have to miss it too much.
See here, Jim says, hey, that's the coach of the other Ontario NHL team. Sorry for the team name cannot be spoken in this house. Winky smiley face.
You know what's really funny? So DJ and I were like Detroit fans, right? Like we loved the Wings forever because we lived right across from it. And so we could go to games together, and we did that every once in a blue moon, like as a date. So we get it. Like we get the passion of fans, and we get that some of them are just like diehard Habs fans or diehard Leafs fans. And for that reason, they just hate the Ottawa Senators. But what has been really nice, especially like from Windsor, is that most people, like, even if they hate the Senators, they're like, but I still love DJ, and they're really sweet to him, because it's nice to see someone in your community, you know, doing well and reaching their dreams. And like, it really truly is his dream coming true to be a head coach and have his own team. It's been really fun for me to watch. I loved it in Toronto. And so I get the Toronto fans too. Like, Toronto was really fun. The team, the organization was so great to us. We still have really good friends there. But, you know, for him to get the opportunity to coach his own team and not just be an assistant, was something like super special to him. And so when he got that chance, he had to take it. And the other funny thing, Arms, is like, you get all this stuff, like all this like Leaf stuff, right? I have all the stuff, and then it's
sure.
Like when they
swag
the team, you're like, well, what do you like? All that stuff is just gone, right? You just like recycle it. Like I'll hang on to like a thing or two for like maybe someday I'll make like a room for him, but we don't really have a room right now. Our house isn't fancy enough, so like I just have like a couple little things in storage, and then like everything else gets donated and on, and then you're on to like your next team. So I'm hoping that we're going to stay with the Senators for a little while longer. He has another year left for sure on his contract, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's an interesting life, that's for sure.
The comments continue to come in. We'll get to a few more of those in just a second. Christie Bezaire is my guest here on the show. Happy to have her on the program. You can comment in the feed if you like. And just before we get back to Christie here, I just wanted to talk a little bit about, she was talking a bit about sick children and how crucially important it is for folks to support what we've got going on. So we want to just talk about some of the cool things that we have on the go here. We're actually selling some mugs for the Ronald McDonald House at Windsor Regional Hospital and the Windsor-Essex County Humane Society. So these are some of the folks who have contributed to providing that peace of mind for kids at home, and parents staying close to their kids too. So these are actually on sale right now, with all proceeds going towards the Humane Society and the Ronald McDonald House. So we want you to definitely consider getting these through Divinal Designs. And then you can help us spread the word about what we're doing here by changing the channel, upgrading the conversation with positive vibes. Divinal Designs is absolutely incredible. They're good folks, and we definitely want people to partake in this, and we can get those mugs to you ASAP. You can find out more information by finding them on Facebook as well. So they're just fantastic people to deal with, and we're very happy to have them be a part of the show as well, including Christie, who's here with us. So generally speaking, do you miss being on CTV?
Yeah, I do. You know what? I miss I miss like the community, and I miss so I'm nutrition coaching now, and I do love it, but I find, you're at your own home, right? And what I thought was so cool working for CP24 and working for CTV was being in other people's offices. Like, I loved that every day we'd have a couple people that we would chit chat with, and like, I'd love to see you and catch up with you or whatever, whoever was there. And then I loved the idea that like the rest of my day was like meeting new people and discovering new things and like learning myself along with the community and getting a story and trying to like understand everything about it so that I could do the best job possible of delivering it. And it was really cool to have to like turn that in a day, the pressure of it all, the excitement. And at the end of the day, not every day. There was days where I was like, man, I wish I did a better job than that. Like, for sure there was, but there was also a lot of other days that were like, wow, like, hope I made a difference today, or like, I hope I shared some good information today. And I really felt like the work was meaningful, and I missed that. It's not that nutrition coaching isn't. In fact, I think it's amazing. I feel like I can help people reach their goals, help them get healthier. It's sort of like connected to what we do in the gym, but it's sort of my own separate company. And those things have always been near and dear to my heart. And I actually was doing them even when I was with CP24. I had started doing some training in nutrition because I knew it was like a passion of mine. So that's been really fun. And you know that I was always doing stuff. Arms, you did some circus with me. Like, I was always into a lot of
Oh my God.
fitness. Yeah, we got you up there. I remember.
We got to talk. Yeah, we got to talk about that, because that was like, oh my gosh, like that was. I remember you asking me. Okay, like, I will. Everybody watching the feed right now, I got to tell you, like, if you talk about somebody who's about as genuine as they come, Christie is it, because she's always so very athletic. And at that point, I mean, I packed on the COVID weight. I'll be the first to admit right now, like, I have packed on COVID weight. But at then, I was pretty heavy, and I was still actually a heavy smoker too, believe it or not. And Christy said, listen, you got to start getting healthy. Why don't you try doing some of this aerial yoga? So I was like, I'll do it. Fine. We'll set up the camera. And then I was just amazed at how you guys were able to do that. I mean, I felt like you were hoisting, for me, it was like you were hoisting a large whale out of, like, you've got me on the stuff, and I'm like, oh my God.
No, you were great. So first of all, you look great. So don't say that. And second of all, you were such a good sport, right? We were shooting it as well, and that's not always easy to like be videoed, but I think you were always willing to put yourself out there, and that's why people enjoyed watching you, because you're willing to share parts of your life and experiences with them, and they love that. So no, it was really fun, and I miss circus a lot. Like, that was just such a fun time of my life, and I literally lived and breathed it. I remember before kids, like, I would be at MTC, the MMA gym where we took you, Arms, and I would stay there till like 11 o'clock at night and like get up and work the next day. Like, I didn't have kids at the time, so I could do that, and we would just be building these like routines for shows coming up and all this different stuff. And it was just so cool back then, because Windsor didn't have anything like that. And actually, I don't know if you know this, Arms, but one of our circus members, James Hughes, he has like gone on to become like, he performed with Cirque. He is on America's Got Talent right now with this really cool group where they like lift weights and do acro at the same time. Like, it's actually mind blowing. So James, he used to be like involved with the MMA gym. He did some training there, and he would watch us, and I could always tell like he was interested. And one day I was like, hey, you, like, why don't you try something? Like, you're just always watching us. And so he did. And it was unreal. Like, he loved it. And then he took what we did and he got a million times better. Like, I'm talking big time good. And then, of course, after that, then Windsor Circus School opened. And like, once I moved to Toronto, like, that, it wasn't like here where we had like a setup and a space and all that stuff. And my cousin, who you know as well, Amy, who did the circus with you too, she ended up moving to Michigan. So it was like just not really happening for us anymore. And so we were kind of done. I did a little bit in Toronto, like training at another gym, and I had my silks up at a CrossFit gym there. But since moving to Ottawa, I haven't really pulled them out. I miss it.
Well, you were so good at it. And I just remember like a good barometer of like, I think how successful like a bit was is like, I remember, I wouldn't call them bits, but like, I think anytime you got me involved in things, I would call it a bit. But anytime like we would do the gig and then we'd run the tape and then you would get like on the honest to God belly laugh from Jim. When you got that, it was well done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Jim. I miss him. Do you see Jim anymore? I haven't seen him in so long. I miss him.
I did.
But I haven't seen him, you know? I should go see him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know, yeah, it was fun when you could like make Jim laugh and make him really
like genuinely laugh, you know?
Yeah. He was always known as like sort of the serious one. Like we're always looking to him for like approval. I don't know how that segment was. Looking at Jim, you know?
Was that good or not? I don't know, but no, and I think that was so crucial for him too, right? Because it's like, you know, it kind of brought out everyone's personality. And I just remember like thinking, oh God, like if I could get him to laugh or I can get him to smile. And I think we did that. And I remember that with that, he had like a good laugh. And I remember he turning to me at the end of the segment for weather. He's like, let's not try that at home, Marcus. And I'm like, no, not a chance. Not happening, Jim. No. You know, God bless him.
Don't worry, Jim.
Yeah. He's just like, and I say to people like, and I mean this, like honest to God, like if I look back on my career and some of the best people I've worked with, you and Jim are right up at the top. And you guys were always kind to me coming into a situation where, quite frankly, I wasn't trained for television, you know, coming in just from the radio side of things. But you were always kind, the two of you, and always able to lend a helping hand. And I say to people, I'm like, you know, those are some of the people that you disrespect not only professionally, but also personally, because you know how good they are and they strive to make you a better person because they have so much to teach you. And I'll never forget the first day you taught me to kind of get on the air. And we were at the University of Windsor for, I think it was Frosh Week. And I was doing a live hit and you're like, take 2 minutes. You got to do 2 minutes. And I felt like I was going to throw up in a bucket after I got off television, right? And then you were like doing it and it's like, no problem. And I'm like, oh my God, right? But it's like, I really mean it. Some of my biggest regrets is not having more time with you and Jim.
Oh, you know, you taught us a lot, actually. Like there's certain things that people need to know that they watch it and they like, you know, you're a consumer of media, you knew everything. And you came from radio. So I feel like you brought a sense of like, of ability to talk and to connect with people that, you know, was really genuine and different from anything that we'd had before as well. Like, I remember kind of being like, yeah, here's the ins and outs of weather. Cause I was finishing weather, you were taking over and I was going into reporting. And you took like what I taught you. And then I remember watching you and being like, well, man, he could teach me now. So you knew what you were doing. You just needed to know the counts, which is very minimal. But yeah, I think your background in radio just allowed you to really shine, especially in that role. And you just always seemed to have so much fun. And yeah, I remember being shocked the day you said you were leaving. I couldn't believe it because I thought, oh my gosh, like he's born to do this. But it is interesting, isn't it? Like you love something, but there's always other things out there, you know, and you can end up finding passion in so many areas, which is exciting because there was definitely a time for me, I know, and I'm assuming for you, where you just thought there's nothing else I can do. Like this is what I'm meant to do, you know?
Yeah. And I think I'm glad you brought that up because, you know, I look back on those days at CTV and I thoroughly enjoyed it. But looking back on it now, I'm going to be 40 this year, which I know is not like a huge benchmark, but it's still a pretty big benchmark for me. Like, God, I didn't think I was going to make it past my 30th birthday, but here I am hitting 40. Right. So, but I think when you take a look at things and you realize how quickly you could be getting burnt out. I think I was burning it at very many levels. And I wanted to make sure that I was able to just getting married too and, you know, spend time with the family and be able to do that in a way that was congruent with what I wanted to do as like starting a family. And I don't think those that wasn't able to be something for me to actually explore at Bell. And that's why, when the situation opened up where I was able to look at a few things, I mean, it was like, okay, what am I going to do next? And then, the opportunity opens up and then do it. But then you get there and it's like, is this really what I want to do? Is this really who I am? Is this really what you want to do? I mean, I've always been a community supporter, and, what I consider to be news sometimes isn't the harder news. And I have really no skill set in doing some of the harder stuff because it doesn't float my boat,
Yeah, it's not for everyone. It's difficult sometimes to be able to do both, like if you're used to doing things that are more lighthearted, like you see that a lot. I feel like in the industry, certain people kind of get assigned to certain things. It depends on the show that you're watching and how big of a budget they have, because some places simply can't afford it. So quite literally everyone is doing everything. But then I feel like it's nice as well when you see stations that are able to assign people to things that allow them to really shine in their element, whether that's hard news or lighter pieces or weather or what have you. So, it's not easy. But to your point about time with your family at CP24, because they're on all day, I had really crazy hours. Like I would work at 5:30 in the morning until 2:30 on the weekends. And then I would do 2 days of the week where I would work an afternoon shift. So I'd be done at like 11:30 and then have to get home from downtown. I lived in Etobicoke and it was like a really quick drive, like 10 minutes to my house, unless there was like a Jays game. And then it could be like, good luck, see you in 45 minutes to an hour. So it was really strange. Like that commute time was really odd. And I remember it like really wearing on me, to be honest. Like I loved it and I felt like I have to do this. I want to do this. But I had Brock and I couldn't work that time around daycare times. So I would like have to use a nanny who had to come on weekends at 5 a.m. And it was like crazy. Like now when I think back, like it was really crazy that I fought that hard to stay in it and I did it for so long. And then DJ would want to be back here in Windsor for the summer. So I would a lot of times like couple my shifts together and I would go leave everyone in Windsor and I would drive to Toronto and work and be by myself for 3 or 4 days. And that wasn't great either. So it's a tough industry, I feel like, to balance your family life with. It depends on where you're working and what their hours are. But when DJ went to Ottawa, I've had people ask me like, well, why didn't you just do news in Ottawa? And it was like, it just at that point, I felt like, you know what, we have to turn the page. Like if I keep hanging on, I'm going to be starting all the way at the bottom again. I just can't, I can't keep doing that anymore. And it was a hard decision. I love it. And people ask if I'll go back someday. And I say like, never say never. You just don't know, but to do it now, especially now that we have Mickey, it would be tough. And Mickey was another thing that was really difficult for me. I'm pretty open about sharing this, but I had 3 miscarriages in between Brock and Mickey. So I didn't know if Mickey would ever happen. And they were early miscarriages and thank God for that. Like they weren't crazy traumatic ones that were, well into the pregnancy, but it was still tough and it wasn't any fun. And I wondered sometimes if it was just simply, like you said, you were burning the candle at both ends. You're trying to do all these things and be everything to everyone. And the stress was just high. Who knows? Right. But but I was really happy when we got to Ottawa and like my pregnancy came along and then this time it actually progressed properly. And then Mickey came along happy and healthy. And that was such a blessing for me. So I'm trying to, enjoy it and soak it up. But he is at an age now where he's getting so wild that I'm like, okay, like I need to go back to like an office and have a real reason to get him into daycare because it's tough. It's a challenge.
Well, it's funny you should say that too, because like, coming from like a dad perspective, right? It's like, the last 3 years for me have been certainly all about my son. And I'm happy to do it. And I would do that in 1,000% heartbeat, right? I like every decision I've made up until right now has been about the family. But then it's like, I think about God willing, he's doing okay. It's like you said, it's like, okay, what am I going to do to make me feel like I have like that persona outside of being a dad and a husband, right? And doing those things. And I think as a mom, I only have one, you have 2. That has to be on your forefront too. But you've got enough stuff on the go. Like you were just saying, you're doing all sorts of cool stuff, including the nutrition thing.
Yeah. So the nutrition company is called Apples and Abs. And I started that actually like when I was working at CP24. I did my course and I started and originally like coaching. I would coach some of the makeup artists and some of the different just friends that I'd made in Toronto. And I would try to, um, get my feet wet with making sure I knew what I was doing before I thought I knew what I was doing, but do you ever really know? No, I don't think so. So I would, I would coach people and kind of practice and I wouldn't charge them or anything. And then over time I started to realize, hey, like I'm getting better at this. Like this is working out for me. And I really loved it. And I love talking about it and I love thinking about it and I love writing about it. And so finally, when we were in Ottawa, DJ was like, just pull the trigger, like make a company. And like, so I did it and I got a website, which makes you feel so official when you have a website. And it's applesnabs.com. And I started kind of blogging and it's not like overwhelming. I don't have a ton of blogs, but I have a lot that it's things that I would talk to clients about that I feel like, oh, this would be like probably helpful information for everyone. And if it comes up with another client, it's like written down and it's there. So I started doing that. And at one point I try not to take on too much, but I had like about 13 clients and that was after having Mickey. And so that's pretty good. Like that's like a decent amount of roster for a nutrition coach, depending on how you coach. I'd like to be like pretty hands-on with people instead of just sending them all like sort of blanket things. So that was going really well. And then now it is getting a little crazy with Mickey. So I've been sort of trying to only keep like a certain number of clients at a time until I get him into daycare. But yeah, it keeps me busy. And I just really find a great deal of joy in helping people. And I also find a great deal of joy in helping people realize that they can eat really well and attain their goals. Because that was something that I struggled with. I was on TV. I felt like I had a really positive upbringing, but I still always felt like I didn't know how to eat properly. I wanted to be thinner. I wanted to be skinny. And now I feel like finally I'm 39. I'm turning 40 next year. So I'm right with you there, Arms. But now I finally feel like way more confident and way more in my element. And it was a combination of sort of finding CrossFit, which doesn't like, you don't work out in CrossFit to get thin. You work out to perform better like an athlete. And that like wrapping your head around that was really exciting for me because that's sort of what aerial was for me as well. Although there's not a competitive element in the aerial arts, there's a performance element. And similarly in CrossFit, you're sort of looking at your workouts as events. So kind of like running a race. What kind of score am I going to get? And when I do it again in 6 months, what kind of score am I going to get? And you're able to look at your progression that way. And so it becomes, I feel like a lot healthier. Like it's a lot more like a sport than it is, I'm going to work out to try to tone my arms today or flatten my stomach. And to me, that was just such a healthy concept. And then the nutrition element coming into that after I had Brock, there was a girl that was coaching at the time and her name was Corey. And she was like, you're in the gym all the time. Like, what are you doing here? And I was like, I'm trying to get skinny. I have to be back on television, And she was like, well, you need a nutrition coach. Like, that's not a gym thing. Like, that's an eating thing. And I was thinking in my head at that time, like, well, I eat so well. Like, I eat healthy, so it can't be that. But it really was eye-opening for me to learn what portions are actually supposed to look like and to learn that I could eat carbs. And like, in fact, I was under eating carbs and I can have more. And those things were so life-changing for me. So when I get to work with someone and show them like, actually you get a lot of food. If you're choosing whole foods, your plate looks really full. I've had quite a few people say like, this has changed my life. It's rebuilt my relationship with food. And that to me is like the most rewarding thing.
I mean, kudos to you because like I think when people are trying to lose weight, like you said, and it's hard, right? Like I don't know, you count calories, you do this, and then, for me growing up, it was always like you get like the frozen food, you get this, you get that, you get, you try to eat healthy, eat your vegetables, but I mean, there's so much that goes into it. And you want to set up those good eating habits, not only for you, but your spouse, but your kids too, right? Because they mimic what you see too. And I love the fact with your company that you're really highlighting that through some of the, the media that you're putting out there. And you're really teaching kids to take that very, not seriously, but keep that in mind as they continue to learn.
Yeah, it was really important to me that my boys see me eat, you know, that my kids, and I didn't know obviously until we had Mickey that we were going to have another boy. So, and I'm my stepson Colton. So I'm surrounded by boys. So I had always envisioned myself like raising this little girl and just like really empowering her, you know, like you're going to eat food and you're going to have muscle and that's cool. Like, who knows what your kids really, she would have probably been like, leave me alone, mom. This isn't for me. But anyway, my kids in general, I want my kids to like have a sense of like what real food is. And that was tough for me growing up. You mentioned like frozen food. My dad was a single dad. You know, we moved to Windsor from Toronto when I was 6 because my dad was raising me alone. So his family was here and he was like, hey, I like kind of need help with this little daughter that I have by myself. My dad is amazing. So he did the best he could, but our dinners were like a lot of frozen food, a lot of like, here's some chicken fingers. We're just going to put them on the pan. And like, I thought that was cooking because we pulled them out of the freezer and put them on the pan. You name it, like Hamburger Helper, like, you know, frozen food, McDonald's. And back then too, I feel like McDonald's and all that, like we didn't really know that it was that bad for you, you know? We didn't, and I'm not even saying that it's that bad for you. I feel like everything in moderation is sort of my mentality with nutrition, but you know what I mean? Like if you're eating something that's takeout every single day, you're probably not going to get the results that you want. So, then I went like the complete opposite direction. When I went away to school, I became a vegetarian because the meat was like gross and making people sick. And like vegetarianism was sort of like, hey, like, look at these skinny people. They hardly eat and they just eat vegetables, you know? So I was like, okay, cool. I'll do that. And that wasn't working for me because, as a lot of vegetarians learn, you're still hungry because you're not getting a ton of protein. So a lot of them start eating, and I don't mean all, don't send me angry messages. I know some of you eat really well, but a lot of them end up eating way more carbs. So their carb macronutrient is like way up here, and their proteins are, some of them, pretty low. So you're feeling hungry and you're looking to fill that with like a protein or a fat, a carb or a fat. And it was like, it just wasn't working for me. And I remember finally reintroducing chicken and fish again. And eventually after having Brock, introducing meats again. And I'm at a place now where I have no judgment about how people eat. However they eat, I feel like if it's working for you, then keep doing that thing. If it's not working for you, then you got to decide.
Yeah. You got to make a change, right? And I think that's so crucial for folks too to understand. I mean, the website I want folks to check out too is applesandabs.com. Lots of great info on there with Christie's work and some fantastic information on there as well too. I also wanted to talk to you, you know, on top of all of this, a little bit about, you know, reminiscing about the old times. I mean, I was able to go through some photos, like when you said, yeah, I'll do the show. Right. So I went through, I'm like, I got to see some pictures of Christie. So you want to talk about blast from the past here? Yeah. What about that? I mean, that's like, I think Battle of the Hors d'oeuvres, 2013. We're up on stage, talk about eating well. Easter Seals Telethon.
So
good times.
Fun. We got to do so many fun things together. So how about like when you're assigned that Battle of the Hors d'oeuvres, you're like, what a tough day I had. I just like, that was just so joyful. Yeah, we had so much fun together doing those charity events, and it was so great because you felt like you were doing two things at once. Like you were having a great time and supporting charity. Like you just couldn't go wrong with that. Potentially working as well at the same time, right? So yeah, no, those times were just fantastic. Like getting to co-host with you and getting to like allow myself to get to know you more and sort of that element too was just like really great. You really turned it on at those events. So I feel like
it's like
doing those.
Oh, I miss doing those. I miss the in-person stuff. But I think like a lot of the fun that we had off air too was just like, you know, getting a chance to have some fun. And, you know, there's some shots there, you know, when you were anchoring, filling in for Jim, or, sometimes it would have the rotating anchors. It was just a lot of fun. And I would always used to say to myself too, like, if I can make you laugh in that last like kicker story or weather segment or do something, again, like the same thing with Jim. It's like, I think I'm doing it well. And we had some good times. Like we really did have some interesting little segues.
Yes. I loved filling in for Jim when you were there too. Yeah, that was really fun. Hilarious, laughing. Oh, I always felt like I just like never knew what was coming. and I was genuinely looking forward to it. It was good.
I tried not to go too off the wall, but like I sometimes like I remember there was that stint where Jim was off because he was going through his heart surgery, but you were filling in for quite some time, and it was like, you know, we were back on the corner of Olette and University. It was like full steam ahead, right? Like you never knew what you were going to get live on the street.
Yeah. Oh, you would have. Let's talk about like what was really happening. Like there was some very interesting people. Like, that was a challenge. Oh, okay, like people don't know like some of the challenges of being at that corner. I remember you know, the Windsor Star sort of moved into that building, and like people, I feel like people like kind of felt bad for us that we had to, it was like, oh, we're getting kicked out, we have to leave. And at the time that was a little bit how it felt, because like that was such a cool place and there was all these like fun restaurants, and it did seem like, you know, you're in the center of action and stuff, which was cool. But going to Bell, like we were finally in like a normal facility where there weren't people like putting their hands up on the glass, just like just there was some crazy things that happened. Or I don't, like, people that might not know this, some of your viewers, but this is a fun fact. There was a bar directly underneath us that would play like live music during the 11 p.m. show. The music would bleed into the feed. Like all you knew is like there was this real party happening down there, like a real serious party. And like here we are, like, you know, like you could be reading like a horrible story. Like you don't know what's coming your way in news. You could be reading like this horribly emotional story, and someone downstairs is like belting it out to Sweet Caroline. Like it was like there was nothing like that. It was the most hilarious experience I've ever had. And yeah, so moving to the Bell building was, you know, it was like, oh, say goodbye. But once we got there and we're in like a proper facility, it was like, this was shocking. We didn't know what to do without all the intense people and situations happening. Yeah, that was really fun.
It was crazy too to have that like investment into, I think, local television for that. It was at 2013 we moved into the Bell building when they brought us up to the top floor. And then I remember Dan Appleby, God bless him, our news director at the time, great guy. Dan was like, hey, you're going on the roof. I said, what do you mean you're going on the roof? And he goes, yeah, we're putting you on the roof. We're putting you on the roof for your weather forecast. And I was like, okay. And my God, freaking cold up there. Like I was fine with it, honest to God. But like, I mean, you know how bad it was up there, especially in the wintertime.
You were a trooper. Like there was times where we would be like, can someone go check on arms? Like a storm would be coming in. Like that roof, thank God they ended up like allowing more studio inside. And like as the time progressed there, like the people figured out like that might not be okay all the time, because I did it like a few times, would fill in for you sometimes. And I was like, this is not okay. Like it could be like either sweltering or completely freezing. And like, yes, it's good for you as a weather person to like really know, to truly know what it's like outside. Because I have seen that, and you know when that happens, where weather people who don't leave their studios, they almost get a sense of like what they're seeing in their radar. And like, yeah, you could be like a genius at all your machines, but sometimes what you're seeing hasn't happened yet. So yep. Silly things happen for sure. But so putting us there, experiencing it, cool to a certain extent. Really cold days. I remember people sending me or others angry Facebook messages. Why won't you let Arms inside? I was like, hey guys, like he's my friend. I'm not, just because I'm anchoring and he's up there does not mean I put him up there. Like I want him inside.
You know, it was cool. Like I was okay with being out there. Like I was the type of person where it's like, okay, let's do it, and it makes for a good bit, good segment. But like people would be like, okay, how many umbrellas do you have to go through? And I'm like, okay, dude, I'm wired up with like 50 cords, and I got to go live in 2 seconds, and it's 50-mile-an-hour winds up here, and then my umbrella would just perfectly time, like woof, right? And then, you know, Jim would have a laugh or whatever. But man, like it was just an interesting, and then you never knew what to wear, right? Like I would try to look professional, try to wear a tie, but it's like, then I'm sweating and I'm sweating like a pig. And then I got to go into the station and do it on the thing. So when they got the green screen, finally, I was like, glasses, wallet, keys, and watch, I can do it, but I'll still go outside for a hit, you know?
Hallelujah. Yeah, no, that was really hard. Like, at CP24, actually, it was similar. I think it's almost like a Bell thing. So like we had, it was called a patio. So it wasn't a rooftop. They weren't that fancy. We had a patio. So, and you had to run down a hallway, up 2 flights of stairs to do your weather hit. And your weather hit was every 15 minutes. So you were on 4 times in an hour, every 15 minutes, up 2 flights of stairs, the hallway, and then to outside. So your hit was outside, but all the work you did obviously was inside. And you can appreciate, though, Arms, like going outside constantly in the horrible weather and like waiting for your hit, right? Because that's the other thing people don't know. Television is a lot of waiting. What's cool about your show today is like you can just kind of do what you want and talk and see how it goes. But normal TV is like, hey, like we've sold these commercials, like you have this much time, don't go over it, but also don't go under it. You know, like we're expecting this out of you. Your producer's talking to you in your ear. You better be on. And so, yeah, actually, it was weather that got me hired at CP24. They needed someone to do weather. And I went in, I remember, and I did some demo anchoring for them. And I remember like leaving the first day and I'm like, man, killed it. Like I did so good. Like I felt so good about myself. Didn't hear from them. And I was like, oh, they hate me, you know? So I'm emailing, hey, thank you for the opportunity. Just following up. And then they had me come in again. And I was like, oh, they saw something they didn't like. Like, I've got to read again. Okay, fine. So read a second time. Cool. Still don't hear anything from them. I ended up anchoring for them. I want to say it was 3 times that I went in and did demo test anchoring. The second time was when Gord Downey died. And the whole show was sort of just about him. So they felt like they didn't see enough range. So then the third time I come in, I read something different, email the news director, and he's like, yo, like, I'll get back to you. Hey, you mentioned you can do weather. And I was like, thinking in my head, like, I haven't done weather since I trained arms. Like, this was a long time ago. I just could have put that on the resume. Not sure. Really not sure. But at the time I was desperate for a job. So I was like, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I do that. And he's like, okay, like, do you want to come in and demo that? And I was like, yeah, I can't wait. So this is now the 4th time that I'm going in there. It's Toronto. I have to book a babysitter 4 times, go downtown, go in. I do the weather. I, in my head, was like, you suck. This is the worst you've ever done. Say goodbye to this opportunity. That was horrific because I knew what good weather was. Like I'd done it. I had watched you do it for so long, but I'd just been out of it for so.
Oh,
did you lose me? I'm back.
Yeah, just a little bit, but that's okay. Keep it. Okay. It's all good.
Yeah, so I think like this is the worst thing you've ever done. You're terrible. Say goodbye to your career in television. And then they end up saying, "Oh, we loved it." I was like, "Did you watch it?" Like, it wasn't. I smiled a lot. Like maybe that's what they saw. I don't know. So they said, "Yeah, like could you come in and whatever." So they were short a person. They needed me. They slid me in. They did me a solid. But it was because of doing it at CTV that like that got me in there too. So I had always said when I taught students at St. Clair College, like how important it was to just be diverse, to try to take on everything that you can, to learn every opportunity that you can, to take it on with grace and a smile and do your absolute best with it. And I'm so grateful for that because it got me to where I am. And then for you, I know you had, done weather and then went on to anchor and do all these other awesome things too. And now you're at the Humane Society where, again, I'm sure that your clout and your and background and knowing so many people has helped you get this opportunity. So it's kind of like unique how it's all related and how things end up playing out in the end. But
yeah,
being outside in cold weather is terrible. Real talk. Yeah. It sucks.
Yeah. It was I guess it was building experience, right? And I was happy to do it. I remember the guys from Windsor Fire giving me a coat, one of the firefighters' coats for the Sparky's Toy Drive, and I would wear it up on the news, and Jim would just die laughing because I would be like that and a parka on because it's like minus 75 on the roof. And I'm just going to keep using it because, you know what, CTV is not going to buy me a coat. I'm going to wear a firefighter's coat. Done and done. But yeah, I'm a firm believer in that. And that's why, like, I'm very grateful to you. I don't think publicly I had a chance to say that before I left. I tried to get you on my radio show as much as I could. If it was up to me back in the day at 800, I would have had you on like on a weekly basis, you and Jim. But I wasn't in that position to make those calls, right? And I think, you know, when I did leave to go pursue other opportunities and looking back, it's like, you know, I wanted to make sure, you know, anything I did in my career, everything comes full circle, right? So, you know, with the Humane Society being a great opportunity for me and my family right now, it's just a really great organization, as you know. You know, Melanie, I don't think there's anybody who's more passionate or genuinely cares about animal welfare and the well-being of families and pets in Windsor, Essex than Melanie. And to work with the entire team again in an official capacity has been just, you know, in the last 90 days I've been there, it's been a real godsend and a real blessing to my family and I. So, but again, that came out of a, you know, working relationship pet picks. I mean, how many times you and I would do the pet picks on Wednesdays on like over 900 pets? I calculated it, 900 pets we did, which was insane.
And like so many hilarious experiences with that, you know, animals and kids, like you just like don't know what's going to happen. Like Melanie, thank God she is so good at that job, because I can't even count the times that like things just sort of went a little not how we planned.
Oh yeah. I got peed on. I got, you know, I remember the one time she brought in a ferret. I think you were shooting me and we were doing it and we were in the little blue room and she brought in a ferret. And I remember the thing, like it was not, like it smelled, right? And it was like really ornery. And you remember that? And you were like, oh my God, what is that smell? And then Bella Chico walks by and he's like, oh God. And Melanie's like, sorry, it's a ferret. We got to get it. And so I'm like, you could always tell, like the ones where I was like, I was not sure about, I'd like pet from a distance.
You're like, I need to help you find a home, but I don't know who wants you.
Yeah, this is a lovely pet. I'm just going to pet it from over here. It's good, you know.
There's someone for everyone. His name is Fred the Ferret.
Yeah, Fred the Ferret. He kind of stinky, but that's okay. But it's those connections you make, right? And then that's why, you know, in 2021, I was saying to you before we went live, it's like, if I can look back on my life and say, okay, well, who really brought me joy? I may have been too naive or too young or too stupid to realize good people in your life. And it's like, yeah, you got to reconnect with these folks and at least the very least say, you know, thank you for everything. So that's why, like I said, I was very happy to say when you said, yeah, I'll come on the show. I said, God bless you, because honestly, I can't thank you enough for everything that you've done for me and my family. And when I say that, I should say this on the show. As Christy said, you know, when you're dealing with kids who are sick and you have a child who is sick, everything that had happened, I had just jumped over to the CBC and I was doing the anchoring, and then my wife Carrie was pregnant, and we had no idea that, you know, go through the whole story. My son Liam had a number of heart issues, so we went from Windsor to London to Toronto within a day. And when we realized it was going to be a long haul at Sick Kids, we really had some difficult times. And I know, regardless of what had happened previously, Christy was one of the few people in my professional life who actually reached out to my wife and I, Carrie and I, and said, you know what? If there's anything you guys need, I think you guys were in TO at the time. You were in Toronto. Let us know. We're there at a moment's notice. And I haven't heard we hadn't really been in contact for a number of months, but I still remember that to this day, that text that you sent. Because at that point, it was like, as you know, when your kid is sick, you're in a different place mentally. So to have that come in was a little ray of hope for us when we were going through a dark time.
Well, I'm not going to lie. When you started sharing what had happened publicly, I'm on social media and I saw it, and in addition to that, Arms, my family was like, oh my God, Christy, look what happened to Arms. Because when Brock was born, Brock was born sick. And I'm not going to go into the full story, but I'll give you the short version. I was 32 weeks. I had 8 weeks left to go in my pregnancy. I hadn't even had my shower. I didn't have a baby's room set up. I wasn't really ready to have a baby. Like I knew I was pregnant, but it was my first, and I didn't know what to expect. And I had up until that point really only focused on my career and myself. So I knew this like little person was coming into our lives, but I had no idea like what a force he would come in as. And I went in for a routine checkup, and I was told like, this doesn't look good. His heartbeat, we can't count it. And I was like, well, what does that mean? You know? And long story short, within the next morning, I went in for another ultrasound, and they said, you know, he's coming now. It's like, sorry, he's coming now. And when they delivered him at Windsor Regional, it was Dr. Mundo. He was like, he was in the middle of delivering another baby, ran into me and looked at me and said, I know you don't want to hear this, but he's coming today. It's the only chance we have. And I was kind of like, well, what does that mean? You know? And so Arms, the one call I made was I didn't have time. I was supposed to go to work that day. And that was my call. My call was to Michelle Molesky, who was filling in for Dan, to tell her, I'm not going to be in today because I guess I'm having my baby. And DJ is like, you know, I'm calling all our family. Just take care of work. So I called. My one call was to CTV to say, see ya, I don't know when. And Brock was born, and he was in heart failure and liver and lung failure. And so they tried to do everything they could in Windsor to help him, but they couldn't do it. They were giving him these medicines that were supposed to try to correct the heart, and essentially like everything was just shutting down, and there wasn't a lot of time left. So they wheeled me in, I remember, and it was this weird sense of like we were almost being taken in to say goodbye, because at this point they had called Detroit to get an ambulance in to shut down the border because they were going to ambulance him to Detroit. And I remember looking at them and being like, I just want to touch him. Like, can I touch him? And so they had to lower, like I'd had a C-section because of the emergency. They had to lower my gate, and they lowered his in his little incubator so I could rub his foot, you know? And it was weird because like the world kind of like stood still in that moment. And then seconds later, the paramedics are there. They're putting a paddle on his little body, which was like 4 pounds, you know, and they're trying to get the heart to correct, and they can't. And so they said to me, like, sorry, he's got to go. Like, we've got to take him now. And you can't come because you've just had surgery. So DJ was like, don't worry, our family's going to stay with you. I'm going to go with the baby. And I had to wait. And essentially, like, I tell people it was the worst day of my life. Like, the day my son was born was the worst day of my life. And I know that is really a weird thing to say because it's worked out and he's healthy now, thank God. But that day, there's nothing that can, like, fix how horrible that day was. And so when it took me, I want to say a year to be able to even talk about that story without crying and without feeling frustrated, like something was taken away from me, like I didn't get to have a healthy child. And after that, we were also followed by Sick Kids. We were transferred to London, then Sick Kids, because Sick Kids was the best of the best. Plus we were going to Toronto. So I was really happy to be there. They were incredible. But when I saw your story, like, and then my family sending me all this stuff, I'm like, okay, I know, because people don't know until it happens to them what that is like. It's just such a unique experience. It's one that I don't wish on anyone. And I certainly don't wish anyone's child to ever get sick at any stage, but there's just such a sensitivity around the joy of having a baby and having that taken from you, or feeling like it's taken from you so quickly and it's almost gone, you know, and it's a pain I wouldn't wish on anyone. So when I saw that was happening, I just, like, I would read your story and everything you wrote, and I would cry. I would just sit there and cry because my heart was just so broken for you guys. And I knew you both personally. And I knew no one in the world deserves that to happen to them. No one deserves their children to be sick, period. You know, I wish I could just take that all away for everyone. But anyway, it was such a joy to see your little Liam make such a strong comeback and be such a like warrior. And his situation, I felt like, was so much more scary even than what I went through. And I just was blown away by how you guys handled it all and how you shared it all too. Because it was one thing, I would share it if people asked me, but I almost couldn't bring myself to talk about it for a long time. And you were pretty open about everything. And I think that that's really important. And I wish I had the same amount of strength at the time, and I just didn't. It took me a really long time to get to that place.
I was really angry for a long time, and I get what you're saying. I mean, Carrie, my wife, we talk about, you know, if we decide to have another, it's like, what are the risks? What are the, but then a part of us is like, just being able to have that experience where I'm not like, people are like, oh, great, he's home. Like, you guys are back from sick kids after 45 days. This is great. But you take a look at things and it's like, that was just the start. Like, I was so like on top of it being my first kid. And then in a new job, which, I was at Bell for 17 years, and then in a new job, going through that situation, trying to get my wife right, trying to get me right, trying to keep my son alive. It's like all the medications he would have to be. And he had those NG tubes, right? Like, what that's about. And pumping his medication. And that was like every couple of hours. And I would do it again in a heartbeat. But I remember the first time I went to Windsor Regional for a checkup for myself, I was shaking. And I heard that the lullaby that they play, and I started to shake. And it was tough for a long time, but he continues to surprise us every day. And it's like, you don't remember, like I always tell people, it's like, it's not who wants to ride the limo with you, it's who's there, who wants to ride the bus with you when times get tough. And I appreciate you, Carrie and I both appreciate you reaching out and, offering anything that you could do. Cause, for us to share it, it was like, we were like happy to share on social, back in the day. And then it's like, okay, then, here we are in this life and then situation. And, when you talk about the worst day of your life, it's like, we would do all those broadcasts over the years. I know you were involved, Jim was involved at McHappy Day for Ronald McDonald House, and you'd interview people. And it's like, oh, this is so, not that you're disingenuous, because you're not, but you're like, oh, tell me about your experience. Oh, and you're like, oh, that's tough, right? But like you said, until you're in that situation where you're thinking like how you can kind of make it through the next day, it's a totally different experience. And I wouldn't change it for the world, but we often think sometimes like, how do we move to the next stage of things? And, it's just it's a tough situation, but thankfully he's happy and he's healthy, and same with yours. It's like, you just kind of move on to the next chapter, right?
Yeah. I remember talking to my midwife, because I was planning on having a midwife, and, that plan went out the window. And I remember just like crying to her, and she was like, like, it's okay to feel this way. But like, eventually, you have to like kind of accept that the birth didn't happen the way you wanted it to. And it wasn't just the birth, like you said, like, oh, my phone. You got me? Am I paused? Okay.
You good?
It was after too. It's like Brock needed medicine and his heart rate check, and I was like given a stethoscope. I don't know if they did this with you guys, but it was like, here, you need to learn how to take your child's heart beat.
Oh yeah.
And I was, oh my God, like, I'm not a medical professional. And it was like, and write it down every time you feed him. We want a chart of his heart rate at every feeding. You have to give him all this medicine, and you're delirious as well as a breastfeeding mom who's up like, I don't know, around the clock, just trying to breastfeed your child. And it was nuts. Like, it was exhausting and terrifying. Going home was almost more terrifying in some ways. Because now it's on you, right? Like, when you're in the hospital, someone else is making the decisions and whatever. But at home, it's like, you have to say, like, is this an emergency? Like, are we going back in? And you don't want to make the wrong call. And that was really hard. And like you said, like, it's just you do these stories, and until you are a story, you empathize, but you can't really live it, so that was big for me and DJ as well. And same thing, we wondered for a long time, like, should we even DJ? I remember DJ saying to me, like, I'd always said, if I'm having one, I'm having two. That's it, because I'm an only child. There's nothing wrong with my children. They're wonderful. But I wanted that, And I remember him saying to me in Michigan Children's Hospital, he was like, "You don't want to do this again." We were in Michigan for a month. Like, he's like, "You don't want to do this again, do you?" Like, and I remember being like, just so overwhelmed that like I couldn't even, the thought of doing it again was like, yeah, whatever. Talk to you about that in a year. Like, don't even bring it up to me. It took a long time to come around to, and a lot of appointments to see like, why did this happen? And we still don't know why it happened. Like, we've never been given that answer. They kept asking me if I drink coffee, and I was like, no, like I didn't drink any coffee. It makes me barf during my pregnancy. Like, they don't know why his heart was in tachycardia, like why the electrical pathway didn't develop properly. It was just a thing that happened. And anyway, we continue to be followed. He'll wear a heart monitor once a year, and he's, thank God, gotten off medications. And because of Sick Kids Toronto, he got off medications early too. And that's the other thing. Like, I used to think of like us versus them, like in some ways, you know, because like Toronto gets so much funding in general, right? And we all tend to kind of I feel like sometimes a bit of a sting from it. You're like, oh, well, we're not getting as much as like the GTA. Obviously, our population is a lot smaller, but then you realize like, yeah, no, but like when you need something, like that's where you're probably going to go, you know, like if you ever need, don't get me wrong, I'm a big proponent of local fundraising and hospitals and stuff, but I'm just saying what they did for us, because we needed to be seen by them, was so incredible. They did some procedures on Brock to help him that were pretty state of the art at the time, to help him get off of some of these very, very toxic medications that he was on a little bit earlier. And that, for me as a mom, meant everything. Like, I just wanted to give him every best opportunity I could. So to even be off amiodarone, which is what he was on, slightly sooner, that was everything to me at the time. And so I'm grateful to Sick Kids. I'm grateful to Dr. Mundell and Windsor Regional. And actually, Dr. Mundell delivered Mickey too, which is really cool. And he delivered him. I was like, I remember we were picking the date of Mickey's birth, because like I was getting a C-section because I had a C-section the first time. And he was like, do you have a like date in mind? And in my head, I was just like, just as soon as possible, because I was so pregnant. I was just like, get me out of the summer. This is awful. And so he like picks this date, and I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, it's only like 4 or 5 days before my due date. Like, why do I have to wait so long? Because I've heard that they'll do like a week ahead, you know, just to make sure you don't go into labor. Well, no, anyways, turns out it was the same day as his birthday. So August 24th, which I thought was really cool. And a nurse like tipped me off. And so when I knew it was his birthday, I brought him in like some booze as a gift and stuff on the day of the baby. But yeah, so I'm really grateful to Windsor Regional and all the staff here that helped us have 2 babies and got us through a very traumatic time with the first one, and got us over to Michigan, where we were in good hands for a month. And then the second time too. And the second time was a much better, much more positive, normal experience.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like, you know, Dr. Addy, who is the NICU doctor who kind of figured out, wait a second, there's something seriously wrong with Liam at Windsor Regional. I mean, I maintain he saved Liam's life. You know, we went from the newborn ward, wing ward, whatever you want to call it, into NICU within like a matter of, you know, days. And then like a day later, Dr. Addy was like, I remember because Carrie was in the hospital. At that point, we were in the hospital for like 5 days at Windsor Regional. And I got her out of there to get some, you know, no offense, like I love the food at Windsor Regional, but like to get something she had a C-section, right? So go get her some food. And I remember Dr. Addy calling us and being like, you guys need to come back, and you need to come back now. So we came back, and that's when he kind of like laid everything out, and it was like, here we go, right? Here's where we go. And I agree with you. I personally believe, I feel like doctors and nurses don't get enough credit for what they do. I mean, if they weren't able to catch those things, I'm sure with, you know, Brock, with Liam, it's like, where would we be here in 2021?
Like I'm so lucky. Like I'm so lucky that I went in for like this routine checkup when I went, and that the midwife knew exactly what she was doing and knew something was wrong, got me to the hospital, and then they knew, like, just the stars had really aligned for me with all of that with Brock. And so I'm sure you feel the same way. Like, you're just so grateful that things turned out the way it wasn't the way we hoped. Obviously, no one hopes to have their child not anything except perfect, right, and healthy, but to have good enough care to catch the things that they were supposed to catch, to get us into the right hands at the right time, like, was everything. It was crucial, and I know it was for you, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone, and I'm so sorry you both had to go through all of that. But I mean, I look at Liam and his picture still that you post, and I'm like, oh, this little fighter, he's just amazing. And
yeah, good kid.
I mean,
and
you're doing a good job.
Same with yours, right? Well, it's the best job, right? It's anything you do, you want to do for your kids, and you know that too, right? So thank you, and for you for Brock and Mickey too, and DJ, you guys have a beautiful family, and I think that's like the best wealth, right? Is getting them to a good place, especially when you can provide them that sort of back and forth. Just a couple minutes left here to go. I know I've monopolized so much of your time, Mom.
Sunlight here. I'm like, oh no, I didn't know we'd be on this long.
We just keep going. That's it. So okay, so
darkening.
I know I'm gonna hook you up with some. I got some lights kicking in my unfinished basement studio, as they say.
I think probably my kids are probably asleep, but
yeah, and then they're gonna be like, Mom, like, what the heck? What are you doing?
It would be weird.
Yeah, you're like, I'm just talking to this guy on the internet. It's good. So nothing to see. Yeah, nothing to see here. It's all good. So when you look at the future, do you feel you feel good? I mean, obviously with the nutrition company, that's going to take off, and that's going to be really good. But like, are you said never say no to anything? Like, would you like to get back, or are you going to see where this goes, or dive into the digital age kind of thing?
Yeah, I never say never to anything, like I think a lot depends on where DJ ends up, and I'm gonna always put my family first. That's something that I think too, when you've almost lost your child, like, you just, I don't know, it changes you, right? Like, everything was about me up until that moment, and then I love my husband too, right? But whatever, but kids, they just change you. So I think that I will see what opportunities come, and if they work well for my family life, and then I'll make that decision. I like the nutrition company is fun. The gym is, I hope people in Windsor, if they're open to learning about a gym, that they want to come check it out. All level CrossFit. It's just so fun. It's such a great community that we have there. It's one of my absolute favorite things to do, is to go to the gym here when we're home. So DJ and I try to go like 5 days a week. And it's just like the greatest time, and that's a big passion of so yeah, I sometimes I sometimes fantasize about DJ working in Detroit. Don't tell anyone, because I'm like, well, I could be home and I could like work at the gym, and like maybe I could do things again and like whatever. But at the end of the day, we're grateful to be in Ottawa. We absolutely love the nation's capital as well. The community has been so welcoming to us, and it's such an incredible opportunity for him. I love the team. I love what he's doing with it. Everything about it has been awesome for him. So it's unfortunately for me meant a little bit of taking a back seat. Having to leave Toronto was a bit of I left with a lump in my throat. I wasn't ready for that. It didn't. I felt like I was just starting to catch my stride there. It was great, but at the end of the day, I feel like we're in a place for a reason. Things happen for a reason. And I love supporting DJ and everything that he's doing. And I'm so excited for him. And I love that we've been able to grow our family and add Nikki to it. That's been incredible for me. So yeah, I'm enjoying my clients and my coaching, and I'll just, I'm going to see what happens next. But no, never say never. And I don't want to hear you say that either, because you're doing this, which is amazing. And
God bless you. I'm thank you. But I'll tell you, I'll make you a commitment right here on the show. If you get back into it, and if you get back into it full time, then you drag my ass on to it too, if you need. I know I'm good. I really want to make a difference, and I plan on. I said to Melanie, I plan on putting my paws into the Humane Society for a long time. We got some really exciting announcements coming up in the next year, and I've got a couple other irons in the fire too. But this show is just it's just a way for me to reconnect with people I love and people I respect, like yourself, and it's just, I think, a service to the community, right? So, but I'm going to let you go because we're taking up all your data, and okay. So here's the deal, though. You have to come back on the show again. That's the deal.
I would love to. Yeah. I promise.
Okay, maybe. No, it's good. And then maybe
I'll
like we
tweak that.
bring like you bring the kids on for a little segment, or bring on DJ and we can pick his brain too, and we'll do like a whole Fam Jam edition.
Sounds great, Arms. Looking forward to it.
Okay. Hey, God bless you,
Say
my
hi
friend,
to
and
everyone
stay safe.
for me.
I will. You too. Thank you for joining us. Christie Bezaire, our guest on the show today. Just an amazing woman. And I really mean that. She's just really, really a good-hearted soul. And I wish her nothing but the best. She's doing some amazing, amazing stuff when it comes to connecting with the audience, and her nutrition company too, which, by the way, you got to check out that and her gym too, her and DJ's gym, alllevel.ca. You can find out more information on that. And then applesandabs.com is Christie's website. And she's got tons of information on there. If you'd like to learn a little bit about nutritional consulting, she's the lady to do it. So you can find out a lot more information on her website. So that's going to do it for today's show. We had a lot of fun today. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for all the comments. Don't forget, we are going to continue on. We've got a great guest coming up this Friday, and we're going to continue on with some really cool cats and dogs, I guess pun intended, for the show in the next couple of episodes. So appreciate you watching. Podcast will be up momentarily. You can watch past episodes on YouTube, and check us out on Facebook. Thanks for watching the project.